Hello, everyone. I am Andrew, and this is Discovering the Truth. Now, before I begin, I know that I was going to do part two of my personal encounter that I had, but because it is such a sensitive topic for me, I decided to give myself another week to kind of finish up the video so that I don't have to talk about it continuously. Excuse me. Because whenever you have an encounter with something, it truly does drain you mentally and physically. So, instead, I decided I wanted to talk about something that I find very bizarre, very disturbing, and I think it should be something that should be brought to more people's attention because it makes me truly wonder if maybe I'm onto something. I'm sure maybe you've heard of these things before, but I want to give my own personal thoughts and opinions on this. And that is, are portals actually real? And does it correlate with the missing 411? If you don't know what that is, it's basically thousands, if not tens of thousands of people come up missing in the woods, in national parks, all across the world every year. And the numbers are honestly disturbing. Now, hear me out for a moment. So, there's a lot of people that have had encounters with different types of creatures or entities out in the woods, national parks, and even in their very own backyards. But what makes me really wonder is where these things come from and how are they able to stay so elusive and out of sight so well. Makes me truly wonder. Then I really got on the idea of portals, and I'm not talking like a portal that's in like, a video game or like the TV show Stargate. Not like a portal like that, but a portal that kind of looks like this right here on my screen. Now, I know this just looks like trees, but what if right here, that's completely invisible to us, there could be a portal there? And you ever wonder, like for instance, if you listen to my encounter and how this thing just popped up out of nowhere. Well, what if these things can travel between these portals? Now, I have a theory. Now, if you ever watch Stranger Things had, the thing called the Upside Down. And basically, it was a parallel universe, but it was almost exactly like the area. Like, if you had a neighborhood, that neighborhood would be in the Upside Down. It would just be dilapidated. It seems like aged a lot. Things are overgrown, but it's still the same type of landscape. And in this other world, in the Upside Down, there are creatures and monsters that live there, and they are able to come in and out of these portals. Now, what if these creatures, why people have such random encounters, and why is it that there's strange sounds always heard before the encounter and then everything falls silent? Now, I don't know if any of you have ever heard, but a lot of people claim that right before they had the encounter, they hear a strange metal sound. And I definitely stand with this because I have heard this strange metal sound in my backyard. And if anybody went onto the other gentleman's YouTube and listened to my whole story, my encounter gets a lot worse because it basically has followed me home. But the first time I had an encounter here at my house with the same creature, I remember hearing a strange metal sound like aluminum or something flapping in the wind. A very, very strange, but it definitely sounds metallic. Now, what if that sound is actually something tearing its way through a portal? Now, anything that I'm saying here does not mean that it's true or it's facts. It's just, I guess, my ideas and what I think maybe or what could be going on. Now, there's so many people that have reported that nothing was going on, and then just out of nowhere, a dog man ran out in front of me. Or we're just sitting there, hanging out in the woods or fishing, and then Bigfoot just walks out from the tree line. Now, I'm not saying that these creatures weren't already in the woods, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people have reported hearing strange sounds, and then just out of nowhere, they have their encounter. Or everything does fall silent. Like the very first encounter I had, the only thing that I heard first was a very large branch being broken. And then my encounter happened shortly after that. But what if that branch breaking was it not coming through a portal? And it just leaps through this portal, lands on something hard, breaks it. I don't know. Now, I know that this seems kind of crazy, but I just really have been trying to figure out like how these creatures, and there's so many different ones, from dogmen to Bigfoot to crawlers to banshees, and the list goes on forever. But the fact of the matter is that let's just say that I decide that I'm going to get a team of people to go and investigate where I first had my encounter. And we could set up there every single day for the next 30 days and never see anything. And a lot of people too, they have claimed to see Bigfoot, dogmen, and they go out the next day or such and such trying to, figure out what this thing was, where it comes from, seeing if they could find any tracks. But there's nothing. Literally nothing. They just vanish. How does such a creature that is so large, so fast, just completely be evasive to everyone? Even to drones and technology nowadays is so advanced that it's crazy to me that no one has actually been able to capture one of these on footage. But also, why is it where they see this thing running or where they were chased by something and they go back to the same location, but there's no prints? Now, I'm not saying in every case. Some cases they do find prints and are able to plaster them, or they may find hair or some type of remnants that it was there. But I'm saying a mass majority of people, when they have their encounters, people that decide to go back and investigate, they can't find anything. It's like it never happened. Or, in the midst of having an encounter, people don't just pull out their phone to start recording. I know I didn't. That was the last thing I was thinking about. But people that have had, cameras up and things like that, it always seems to get distorted, or the footage just simply malfunctions and does not work. But what if that wasn't the actual creature doing that? What if it was actually the portals interfering with any type any type of electronic, because maybe it could be something magnetized or something of that nature, causing things to malfunction. People have claimed that their compasses have went crazy, their cameras have died instantly, and people all the time are like, oh, it was a ghost. What if it wasn't a ghost? What if it's not the energy being pulled off of these portals that we can't see, but these creatures can see them and they use them to go back to their world, or to be able to get from point A to point B? Now, like I said, none of this means that I am 100%, right on these subjects. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of how these creatures do what they do. Now, let's look at the missing people 411. And this is a very sensitive topic for me and probably many of you out there, because unfortunately a lot of these people are found deceased or have never been found at all. And that is saddening, but also very disturbing. Now, the reason I bring this up is there has been so many cases where you take a professional hiker, someone that's been on this same trail for years, knows this trail like the back of their hand. They know the wildlife, they know the terrain, they know the landscape. They've been on this area so many times that they could literally hike it blindfolded. They have a lot of outdoorsman skills, hunting skills. They're not a novice at this by no means. But yet this person goes in the woods. They are fully equipped, they are ready, they have food, water, supplies. Some people have satellite phones. They have the right equipment. They also have a firearm of some kind. But yet these people just vanish without a single trace at all. Like, for instance, I read a story where a man that had literally over 25 years of experience being in the woods, with hunting, living off the land, and then just one day he goes out for a normal hike in an area that he's been to thousands of times, and vanishes. Just gone. And, they find out that this person's missing, so the authorities get notified. They send out, search teams. Search teams can't find anything. They have sniffer dog teams that go out. They give no scent, no nothing. The people that are going out, search and rescue, they find no clothing. They find no supplies. They don't find their bags, their firearm. They don't find any wrappers from snacks that they may be eating. Everything is just gone. How does somebody vanish? And I'm not saying that every single missing person case is not, them falling off of a cliff or, simply getting lost, turned around, and I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there's a lot of cases where what I just explained happens, and it doesn't make any sense. It truly makes no sense. And then there's other cases where someone will get lost and they end up, hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from where they were supposed to be, but they have no idea how this person got from point A all the way to point Z within record times. But also, there's no way these people could have got that far. And they have found people like this, unfortunately deceased. But how does somebody travel that far? But let's just say that one of these very skilled people is hiking through the trail, and because these portals are completely invisible to us, you just walk through it and don't even realize you did it until it's too late. And then, there's a lot of people that, claim that these monsters start hunting them. And what if these dogmen or Bigfoot or any other type of cryptid type monster, even like Mothman or people have talked about giant spiders being out in the woods and other, feral people and things like that. But what if these people are doing their thing and a dogman steps out, and the dogman is very, very aggressive, angry, and it attacks them, but it pulls them through the portal? They're gone. They're there, but they're in a different parallel universe, or just a different world in general. I don't really know a good word for it, but what if that's what's going on? And then other people that have been lost and have claimed that they could see the search and rescue and they would call for help, but it was like they didn't exist. It was like they were a ghost. But what if that person was through the veil? And that's what I think portals are, is the veil. What if that person they fell into this other world and they could see people and they were hollering for them, hey, I'm over here, but no one can see them at all. And then they eventually get found, and the people are telling them, hey, like, I seen search and rescue. I called for them. I hollered at them, but it was like they didn't see me. They didn't hear me. Isn't that very bizarre? I mean, to me, that is extremely bizarre. And, there's other people that have, you have two people walking on the walking trail, and they break line of sight for just a second. The other person catches up, turns the corner. They're gone. How does someone vanish in thin air? And people have claimed that somebody just simply went around a corner and they're maybe a couple steps behind them. They hit the corner and they're gone. And they start calling their name and there's nothing. So if somebody was moving faster down the trail than someone else, first up, you're just a person. You're not going to be moving through the woods that fast in general because you have branches, debris, rocks, etc. And, you're going to trip, you're going to fall. If you're carrying a bag too, you have weight on you. You don't just vanish that fast. And then if your partner's right behind you and you go in the corner and they're vanished and they're going to start hollering their name, but they hear nothing. And they didn't hear any branches breaking. They didn't hear no disturbance at all. But their friend or wife, girlfriend, whatever it may be, is just gone. It truly does make me wonder, what is going on? And I think that I'm onto something personally, and I'm sure other people have talked about this exact same topic, but I think that portals are very much real. And I think that it's not just the portals that are real, but I think it's more like the veil. And the reason that you have so many people that disappear is because, one, if these monsters, cryptids, whatever you want to call them, you're in their territory and they know that. And if you happen to go in there and one of these things starts stalking you and you're freaking out, you're scared, you're worried, so you start moving, trying to find somebody else. But what if in the midst of all that you step through one of these portals, like something like this on screen? I mean, I know there's just trees, but what if there was a portal there, a tear in the veil right there, and you don't know it, and then you step through it? And what if it doesn't look like it does in the Upside Down? It's all like dark and gloomy. But that's why that the person is just gone. They vanish without a trace. Nothing. No shoes. No scent. No nothing. Just gone. And that's bizarre. And then sometimes they stumble across something and they find a shoe or something, but there's no person. There's no blood. There's no disturbance in the earth that an animal attack happened. And then there's other cases where excuse me, where someone will vanish and they've thoroughly looked through this area, they don't find nothing, they move to the next area, and then, months later, they find the remains of this person in the area that they searched. How does that happen? Because there's no way that someone was that far off the beaten path, that thermal imaging drones are flying over, you have scent dogs out there, you have trained professional people that have been tasked to do this multiple times, to go out and find a missing person, but yet they somehow don't find them, but then a couple weeks later they find their body or their remains in a spot that they thoroughly searched. Does that not seem very strange and bizarre to you? Because it does to me, and it really truly makes me think that there are not tears in the veil, and that these things truly do travel in between these veils, but they also are able to take you into their area, and that's why you vanish without a trace. Because a scent dog isn't just going to randomly lose the scent of a person, but there's times where the dog got no scent, and they have to, actually get a piece of, clothing from the family or whatever else to grab the scent of this person, but yet the dog just goes to an area, sits down, and the dog is confused. And something else that I find very, very bizarre in these situations is when someone comes up missing and the search crews get notified, and you have the park rangers out there, the authorities, you have volunteers, all these people go, and then right as they get ready to start the search for this, inclement weather happens. Very tremendous fog, very bad storms or weather, or blizzards come in. And this is literally so well documented that so many people have reported that the moment they go to search for a missing person, this happens. Why? And all of this doesn't, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe there is something going on, and I think all of it is tied together in some way. Now, I don't know yet, but like I said, I didn't make this YouTube channel just to talk about these things. I am making it a goal. It is like a passion for me that I'm going to discover the truth. One way or another, something is going on with the cryptid sightings are increasing drastically. And then, these things just vanishing without a trace, and not being able to track them down, not being able to find out where these things come from, nobody being able to get photos or videos of these creatures. And then on top of that, all the thousands of people that vanish in the woods, and I'm talking about like very highly skilled individuals that know what they're doing, but yet they're just gone. Or they find them deceased from, they say that it's the elements, it's being exposure, but these people have the proper equipment, the proper means of survival, but yet they find them deceased. And just none of it adds up to me. Something is going on with these cryptid sightings that are increasing drastically. On top of that, people vanishing and then popping up in a totally different area, hundreds, if not thousands of miles from where they were supposed to be. Other people being lost and hollering for help because they can see the searchers, but yet no one can see them. And then the strange glitches with electronics malfunctioning, not working, those things. And then on top of that, you have it where I don't know. It's just so much. I'm getting overwhelmed here in my head thinking about it all. But what do you guys think? Do you think that it's possible that, a place as simple as this that just looks like the woods, what if this was a portal? You can't see it and I can't see it. But what if these entities, these creatures, these beings are using these portals, and that's how they stay so elusive to all of us, and they know that. And I know for a fact the creature that I seen, it was not an animal. This thing had intelligence. It knew. You could look in its eyes and know that this thing, yes, is scary, of course, but it has intelligence. It's not like a normal animal. If you look at a cat, a dog, a deer, it's an animal. But these things, and I've heard it before, and I'm sure you have too, that when people look at these things, they realize that these things are not just an animal. They are smart. They have emotions, and they feed off of things. There's times where people said these things have grinned at them. Why would an apex predator grin at you? Doesn't make much sense, does it? And then if you look at all the missing, men, women, and children, and even children, which just saddens me to even think about, but how a child will get lost and then somehow be on top of a mountain hundreds of miles away. And then other people have disappeared and reappeared. Now this one's really trippy. Someone that has disappeared for weeks, if not months, and then pops back up, and they're alive and well, but they've been gone for months, but yet to them, only days have passed. And there's documentation of this where people have been, lost, and then they get discovered, and they're like, oh, you've been gone for months, but yet their facial hair is not grown out enough to be gone that long. Their clothing, their food supply, all these things do not match up with the time, because from the person disappeared, only a day or two has passed. But yet to the authorities that were notified to go look for this person, say this person's been gone for months. And to me, that's really scary, because it's like, does this other parallel world run differently? How is it there? Is time different? Is the whole atmosphere, everything about this place different? And they show these things in movies and TV shows and even video games where you go into these portals and you can get from somewhere that's so far away, but yet through this portal you get there so fast. Like I said, I don't know what the truth is behind all of this, but I do know that these creatures are able to move and vanish so quickly. And from all the unfortunate souls that have been lost in these national parks and in the woods, it's an alarming subject. And I truly think that more people need to look into this, that I think that these creatures are attacking people, and they are pulling them through the veil, and that is why no bodies have been found, why there's not blood, why there's not remnants of something happening in a particular area. Because a natural animal, if an animal attacks you, like a bear, a mountain lion, your body's not just going to vanish. The animal's going to attack you, it's going to take you out, or it's going to eat you, and it's going to leave remnants of bones or scraps. Of course, the mountain lion's not going to run off with your book bag. Maybe a bear trying to get into it for food, but the bear's going to tear it to pieces trying to open it up to find out what goodies are inside. But 90% of the cases, that's not what happened. And I feel like it's a much bigger subject, and I believe it is a major cover-up. Because I think that they know what lurks in these woods. And I believe that they know about these strange creatures, but yet they keep it a secret. Just like the whole portals and going into the veil, I think is very much true. And I truly do believe that that is where these creatures are going and how they're able to move the way they do. And unfortunate people happen to stumble through these portals and get lost. Some get found alive or dead, unfortunately. It's like, for instance, there was a story of a little boy that got lost, and they found him days later, but this little boy said that a bear was keeping him warm at night and was picking and feeding him berries. Now, I understand that children have a very amazing, comprehension to things and their imagination. But I can't see a child saying that a bear was keeping me warm at night and feeding me berries. Because one, a bear would not do that. Secondly, a bear is not going to keep a child warm. If anything, if there's any animal in the animal kingdom that has nurtured or protected a child or a human, is usually out of a gorilla or a dolphin. Dolphins have been known to protect, people from sharks and other animals, and gorillas have done the same thing of protecting children that have accidentally fallen into their enclosure. But there's just not a random gorilla in the woods, and bears are more of an apex predator, but most bears are more scared of humans than we are scared of it. But yet this child has stated this. And there's been a lot of cases where people have claimed to have seen and heard strange noises. Other people have claimed to see, fairies and other things while being lost or being lured by strange voices being called from the woods. Like, there's so much that I have to talk about on this channel that it's not even funny. So, I'm already at 30 minutes now. So, I'm going to end this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed, but just do me a favor. Stick with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It's greatly appreciated. I just want you to know that. But bear with me because I have a lot of stuff, cooking up in the background that I am researching, studying, and trying to get a better understanding of. It's not just about the cryptid monsters that people see. There's so much more to this, and I'm going to discover the truth one way or another. But I do know that there are strange and bizarre things that are going on all over the world, from people disappearing to strange creatures appearing, strange things coming out of the water, strange things coming out of the sky. There is so much to discuss, and I have barely scratched the surface. So if you do like content like this, where someone is basically just trying to discover the truth and trying to get a better understanding of all the strange, bizarre, and downright terrifying things that are going on all around us, then feel free to subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot, and it doesn't cost a thing. So with that being said, that if you made it this far into the video, I want to say thank you. I greatly appreciate it. I'm almost up to 100 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. I couldn't do it without you guys, so I just want to say thank you, a huge thank you again. And another thing too is that next week I will do part 2 of my encounter. So if you are interested in that, or if you have not watched my previous video before this one, it is me basically telling the world about my own personal encounter I had with a very strange, creepy, and downright horrifying creature that I had an encounter with. And I've had an encounter with this particular creature a whole 8 times, and hopefully it stays at 8 times. But yes, I've had an encounter. You can believe me or not, that's up to you, but I know what I've seen, I know what I felt. So anyways, hope all of you have a great and wonderful day, and just be safe out there no matter what you're doing. Even if you're on a walking trail, your family's nearby, keep your children close, keep an eye on everything, because this world's a lot stranger than what we even know. And I think all of us have barely scratched the surface to the truth. I am Andrew. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one. I'm out.